welcome. I'm here today to talk to you about Rosemary's Baby by Ira Levin. This is a recent reread of mine. The first time I read it, I think I was in either middle school or high school. I'm not sure, but it's been a long time. This time around, I actually listened to the audiobook, which is narrated by Mia Farrow, who happens to have played the titular role of Rosemary in the movie adaptation. It's kind of hard to talk about this book without talking about the movie because it's such an iconic movie. If you're a horror fan, you probably either know the storyline of it, or if you haven't seen it yourself, or you at least have seen little snippets of it. Anyway, like I said, Mia Farrow narrates the audiobook, and I do think my perception is that she's quite a bit older when she narrated that book. Her voice does sound quite a bit different than it did in the movie, so it wasn't so close as to be annoying for me, but it was similar enough to just make it a little bit uncanny and kind of add to the atmosphere of it for me. She read not just Rosemary's character, but a lot of the other characters' voices very similarly to the way the actors read the lines in the movie. The movie, like I said, is a super faithful adaptation. A lot of the lines are verbatim. A lot of the scenes are like, snippet by snippet, exactly the same, or as best adapted as a film could be from a book where you get people's thoughts can be. Super faithful adaptation. I quite like the movie if I haven't made that apparent yet. Anyway, this book is about Rosemary and Guy Woodhouse, a young couple living in New York in the 1960s. Guy is an up-and-coming actor, and Rosemary at this point is a housewife who is dreaming of the day Guy finally decides he's ready to start trying for those 3 children that they're planning to have. At the beginning of the book, they score an apartment in the Bram, this apartment complex that they have been on a waiting list for forever. They finally gave up on it, and they finally score an apartment just at the last second when they're about to move already. Not long after they move in, they're befriended by this old couple, Roman and Minnie Castevet, whose apartment is on the backside of theirs. Pretty immediately after that, Guy decides he's ready to start trying for kids, and after a trippy, horrific, I'm gonna say dream sequence, Rosemary becomes pregnant. About the same time, Guy happens to get this great break in his career. He lands the part he was really hoping for, and things should be just looking up and rosy. The book does follow essentially Rosemary's point of view, so everything should be just great. Guy's got this great part. She's finally getting what she wants. Everything's fantastic. She has some super supportive neighbors who happen to become overly supportive and overly involved in her life. And enough weird, unsettling, odd, unpleasant things start happening that things just aren't looking up for Rosemary. The pregnancy is very difficult on top of everything else. Eventually, Rosemary becomes convinced that these neighbors and all of their friends are part of a coven of witches who want her baby, want to sacrifice it or do something terrible with her baby. So this book is full of so many things that I absolutely love in a horror book. The feeling of paranoia throughout it and the just general tone of disquiet and unease is absolutely fantastic. I really enjoy the apartment house setting in a creepy book. The religion or cult aspect, specifically in this one, a devil worshipping aspect, is something that I really enjoy. I just find religion super interesting in general, and that's always something I love in a horror book. Especially having the members of that cult be elderly, I think is a lot of fun. There's something super creepy about seemingly chipper old people who are actually subtly sinister is something I love. I like having elderly main characters, which it doesn't seem like you see a ton of in fiction. I like that in general, but when they're like evil or creepy, it's especially fun. Something that's not specific to horror books that I really enjoyed in this was just sort of the underlying gender dynamics and gender politics. I did read some tones of feminism throughout that if you don't think similarly to the way I do, I don't know that you would view them that way. It was nothing overt, but I just really enjoyed looking at this woman's life in the 1960s and her marriage and kind of how she views herself and how she thinks it's okay for Guy to talk to her and when she thinks there are issues with it. I really had a good time sort of looking at the way she interacts with her husband and the way she feels about her family and her place in society and her independence, and comparing that to the way I interact with my husband and the people around me and my family, how they interact with their spouses, how they would react to certain situations. That was something that I really enjoyed and I think played really well into the overall horror of this, because the horror of this is about having a baby. It's about becoming a nuclear family in a way. There are so many things that you can read into this, and honestly, I think I could talk about it for an hour, but I'm going to sum it up. The last thing I want to talk about that I absolutely loved in this book is how many different ways it can be read. The story in general. I recently watched the movie with my husband, who had seen it before, but it had been so long it didn't seem like he remembered most of it. He made a comment toward the end about the way the movie could be perceived that I did not think of at all. Like, I don't remember ever seeing it that way. And I actually rewatched it later by myself, trying to view his perspective of it, and I still just didn't see it that way. But, obviously he did. Different people can view it different ways. If you don't know the whole storyline or the ending of it, I think you would have a much different reading of it going into it blind than you would upon rereads. Even myself, knowing the storyline really well, with this read, I found myself almost obsessed with wanting to know Guy's point of view through all of it, his thoughts and his conversations with Roman, and just wanting to know more about the side characters and wanting to know more of what was going on in the background, which I do think was the right choice to not include in the book, but I just was trying to visualize other people's perspectives in it. Which leads me to a question that I want to ask people who have read it or seen the movie and know the whole storyline. So at this point, that question might be a little bit spoilery. I might get into spoilers while I kind of give my answer to it. If you haven't read this yet, if you don't know the story, lucky you. Please click out now. I highly recommend it. It's a 5-star read for me. It's quite short too. Let me check. This copy is 245 pages. It's a quick read. The audiobook, I don't remember how many hours it was, but it was quite short for an audiobook. The movie is only going to take 2 hours of your time. I highly recommend you check it out. Please go do that. Let me know down below if you plan to go watch or read this for the first time. On to my question. If you have read the story, if you know what's going on, who do you think is the most villainous person, the most villainous evil character in this whole story? Obviously, so many characters do some just god-awful things in it, some super immoral, horrendous things, innumerable immoral actions in this book by so many different characters. But I really, really found myself with this reading thinking that, well, the Castevets and the whole coven, if that's what they call themselves, are following their religion. They legitimately, I think that they're doing things that are the right thing to do, especially with Roman having been brought up in it, and with their religion manifesting itself. Like, they have tangible evidence of it. It's not just like, somebody in this religion told them to do an immoral thing. They have, if you know the story, I think you know what I'm trying to say. I think they honestly don't think of themselves as doing bad things. They weren't overly cruel at any point. Most of them weren't anyway. So I'm kind of giving them a pass. I also think Guy, though I hate him, I think he probably was telling himself that he was doing the right thing for his family, that it was the right choice to make. And I do think he struggled with some of the bad things that happened because of his actions when Baumgard went blind and when Hutch finally died. He could have been acting, but the way I read his responses, I think he legitimately was upset about it. Rosemary seemed surprised with how upset he was about Hutch's death, which makes me think that he was legitimately upset about it. Don't think he meant to be a terrible person. Which brings me to who I think was the evilest person in this book, or at least with this reading through of it. I know this is a really feminist viewpoint to take as well, but Dr. Hill just got under my skin. In what circumstance would a 9-month pregnant former patient of yours coming to you saying that she's afraid her doctor's doing some weird things and she's afraid of her husband, in what circumstance would you call them to come pick her up? Like, she's asking to go to a medical facility, which is clearly where she needs to be. Like, if she's having some mental breakdown, she should probably be in a medical facility. Regardless, there is a chance that they were doing something wrong, that she was in danger. But either way, she's pregnant and she's terrified of these people. It's not going to be good for her health or the health of her baby to be their prisoner. So, I don't know. I thought his actions were absolutely deplorable, which, like I said, I think is a really feminist read of it. But let me know down below who you think was the evilest character in this. Do you think Rosemary made a wrong decision at the end? Can you not forgive her for that? I don't know. I could have so many conversations about this. I absolutely love it. If you are a massive fan, chat with me down below. Let's geek out together. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will talk to you all again soon. Bye.